Turn on the light. Okay. I hope everyone had a great Thanksgiving. I really missed not going live last Thursday. Okay, so I posted in the chat the free download for today, so you can download it, take notes, whatever works for you. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and go over these and explain why they're so important. As I'm going through them and you have any questions, feel free to just post them in the chat and I'll either pause or I will answer all of your questions at the end. I absolutely love questions, so don't think anything is silly or stupid. Just post them and I will definitely get to them. But the link is right there, so if you click on that, it will take you to the Google Drive and you'll be able to download the PDF for today. So I
Heather,
see some.
can
Hey,
you
Karen.
can you reshare the link? It only shows up when you log into the system, so it's not
Really?
showing
Okay.
for. Yeah, thank
Yep.
you. There you go.
There you go. Thank you,
Thank
Karen.
you. Mm-hmm.
All righty. So before we get started, I'd love to know. I see a lot of familiar faces. Karen, how are you? Um,
Bonnie.
if anyone could just, or if you all could just post where you're located, I would love to just see. Very fun to know where everyone's at. So if you don't know, my name is Heather Keller. I am in the Chicagoland area. Good old Illinois, always very high on the foreclosure rate list. I'm in the western suburbs of Chicagoland. So I rarely, yes, we say Chicagoland. I can't remember the last time I was in the city. I am just about 50 minutes west of Chicago. So, okay, Nancy is in Georgia. We have Nevada. Oh, hey, Sonia. South Florida. I knew that. California, Doug, Minneapolis. Very cool. So we have some really warm places and some really cold places. So it snowed here over Thanksgiving break, which is just crazy. It's warming up slightly. So welcome to everyone. If you're brand new and you haven't been on one of my weekly live streams, I do this every single week. And so I started this group a while back and I really, really want to provide value. The market is shifting, whether you believe it is or not. I've been tracking this data. I'm a super nerd when it comes to the data. And so if you would love to take on this niche, whether it is a short sale or someone that's behind on their mortgage, but they have equity to sell, this is a really great community to be a part of. I truly believe if you have no clue what is going on in this type of niche, you shouldn't be taking on these deals. It's only going to harm the seller. We certainly don't want to get them into a pickle. Hopefully, these questions today will really help you get started. Maybe it'll get you excited. There's definitely going to be a need in 2024 and beyond for agents who truly want to help these homeowners and hold their hand throughout the process. So again, I'm just going to post a link if no one has it or didn't see it above, because I know we have a lot of chat. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And oh, hey, Zan from Alabama. So the Zoom link, well, it should have been in all the emails that I was sending to you guys. So I actually can't pull it right now. All right, let's go. So again, if you have any questions, please post them in the chat and I will get to them. So these are really important questions to ask your sellers up front. And so we're going to go over the questions. I'm going to tell you why they're so important. Really, the idea here is to get as much information from your sellers as possible. We want them to open up to you why this happened, what is their goals, all of that, because it's only going to allow you to help them come up with a game plan. They come to you earlier on in the process, they may have a game plan A or a game plan B. They come to you late in the process and they already have an auction. There may not be anything you could do, or you may just have one plan in place. So it's just really, really important to do your due diligence up front. Inside of the coaching program, I do stress to everyone to, do your due diligence, get as much information up front, because you should be really only going to these properties one time. And so that's what you're trained to do. Time is of the essence. You got to be back in your environment, your office, and really helping, navigate with the bank, the attorney, whoever is on your team working with it. Okay. So, question number one: what is your name, address, phone, and email? Now, that may sound silly, but it is kind of exciting when you get a call and you want to get that information. So a lot of times I'm actually in front of my computer. And so I'll ask them because then I can go in and look up the information. But they may not be ready to go right now. And so if they're not, it's not always going to be a no for you, okay? It may be a no right now, but you have to keep in touch with them. And so I always try to get this information. Sometimes I do miss the email, but I also want to ask them, like, what is your best form of communication? So if someone calls me, I'm going to have their name, I'm going to have their address, possibly a email, but definitely a phone number. Okay. And so I put that in my calendar and I keep track of all of the conversations we have. But really, you want that information so you can continue to drip on them. Okay. So that is like a priority. Get it all down, write it down. If you're driving, pull over, text it to yourself, email it to yourself. Okay. So number two is, are you behind on your mortgage payments? Now that may sound like something silly, but it's actually a really important question. Because if they are not behind on their mortgage, maybe they're trying to be proactive, and this does happen from time to time. Maybe they're trying to be proactive and they're like, hey, I made November's payment. I cannot make December. What do I do? So in that case, you could probably still get things going, okay? But the bank really isn't going to allow a short sale, if it is a full-blown short sale, to happen until they're at least 30 days behind, okay? It doesn't have to be when they're served or it's NOD in the county recorders. They will start the process 30 days behind, okay? So that's important to know. If they're like, oh, I can make a payment for the next couple of months, I mean, I would never suggest the seller to stop making payments. Now, I know that attorneys, I think, have said, hey, this is my best advice. I never do that. So I give them all the scenarios and I'm just like, look, you have to make the decision to stop making these payments, not me. But I am here for you whenever you're ready to start this process. So, are you behind on your mortgages? No? Okay, well, are you struggling? When do you think you can't make that payment? That's important because that will allow you to help you. That will allow you to help them come up with a future game plan. If they say, yes, the payments are behind, then you do want to know approximately, well, how long behind? Like how many months or how many years? I got 2 calls last week on my weekly letters that we send out. And one of them had stopped making a payment a year ago, and the other one was 4 years ago. And so that 4-year one, they stopped making that payment right before the pandemic hit. And it's a spiral effect. And so he now has an auction in February. So you just really never know. If you are a Liz Pendon state, you can really abuse the system a little bit because it does have to go through the court system. So that's important to know. Number 3, how many mortgages are on the property? So I've dealt with 1 mortgage, 2 mortgages, 3 mortgages. This is important because you want to know what is on the title. Ultimately, when you take on the deal, sometimes beforehand or mostly when you get the offer, you want to review the title. If you are not reviewing the title as the expert, you are doing a big no-no. Please review the title, okay? Because you want to know what is on there. And that's so important because a seller, so for example, the guy that called last week who hasn't had a payment in 4 years, he has a first mortgage. And we do believe that there's equity, even though he hasn't made a payment in 4 years. But after doing some due diligence, looking on the recorder of deeds, I have decided, okay, before we do anything, Mr. Seller, we're going to pull the title because it looks like he has some other liens or judgments. And it does look like he has a second mortgage. Well, he thinks that second mortgage was charged off a long time ago. Well, that could be the case. Even if it's charged off, they could still keep that lien on the title of the property because if they were to ever go sell, then we have to negotiate that off. So it's just really, really important to um, understand, how many mortgages there are. And they may not even know. If you could get one mortgage, that's going to be the easiest. Dealing with three mortgages is really a pain. So while this is just an estimate, you still ultimately want to review the title. Okay. Okay, so that's number 3. Tamika, I see your comment. I'll like I said, I'm going to try to go through all of this and then get to all of the questions. So if you're listening live in the group, you can post your questions also in the comments, and I will go back to the group and see that as well. All right, number 4. So who is the mortgage company? That's actually another important question. All these are important, but you do want to know that because each bank, each servicer, and I use lender, servicer, and bank all the same, okay? They process their deals differently. And so does the end investor. FHA is going to be a huge pain versus a Fannie Mae deal. But I would say I don't even ask what the end investor is. Sometimes you can find that information up front. The seller probably doesn't know, but you could still ask that. But okay, so who is the mortgage company? Someone says PHH, and I'm gonna do a little sigh, or not a sigh, PNC. I'll do a little sigh because like they're a pain. I know that they're gonna require wet signatures for everything. If it's SLS, SPS, I do a little happy dance because I absolutely love dealing with them. So it's really important to know the bank because eventually when you go sit down with them, you want to prepare all of the listing documentation, the short sale packet, everything ahead of time. So that way, again, you're going to the property one time, it's such a good idea to stay organized and consistent. Time is key here. And so you want to take all of that paperwork with. Well, that bank or that servicer may have a specific authorization. And if they do, we want to be able to provide that and have them sign that specific one. Because if you don't know that information and you just have them sign a generic one, then you're going to have to go back there and get it wet signed again. Okay. So it is important to understand who the servicer is or the bank or the lender. Like I said, I use it all simultaneously. Number 5 is a tough one, I would say. What is the approximate amount owed? So if they have like an old mortgage statement or a recent one, tell them, hey, can you have that ready for me when I come? The reason why is because if you don't have the lender contact information, the customer service number will be on there. However, it will also have the loan number. But you can take a look at that mortgage statement. It's going to say principal and balance owed. Then, and that's where people get confused. Then there's like, oh my gosh, 4 years worth of back owed payments. That doesn't include any of the foreclosure fees. So if you can just get an approximate amount, that's going to be ideal because in this market right now, it's either going to be a short sale or it's going to be an equity sale, or the first mortgage could be paid in full and the second will be short, which is probably the worst scenario. But it is a good idea to get an approximate amount owed. Now, I do advise to order a payoff statement before you start all of this, just because you want to be sure. Hey, Mr. Seller, I am the expert here. Let's order a payoff instead of just running and getting the property listed because we want to understand, is our plan going to be A or is it going to be B? And so you don't know until you have that payoff, okay? So I would say along with number 5, go ahead and order that payoff. All right, number 6, have you filed for bankruptcy? So there's 2 different types of bankruptcies for personal. It's Chapter 7 and Chapter 13. Chapter 7 is just wiping away all of the debt. Chapter 13 is a debt consolidation plan where they're making monthly payments. We are not bankruptcy attorneys. However, I do have multiple attorneys on my team. And so you have to remind them I'm not a bankruptcy attorney. However, I do know how it works hand in hand with selling your property. So this is a very, very important question. Have you filed for bankruptcy? If the answer is no, then just keep that in your back pocket, okay? Because a bankruptcy and it's very complicated, it does temporarily stop that date. But the key word is temporary, okay? If they have said, yes, we have filed, then you want to ask them, is it a 7 or is it a 13? They may not even know that. And so just say, okay, are you or were you making monthly payments? And if they say no, then obviously you're going to know that it's a 7. Then if you know that it's a 7, you want to make sure, like, is it discharged? That's also really important to know. If it is a chapter 13, then you want to ask them, are you still making those payments? Because if someone is in a chapter 13 and they're making those payments, that foreclosure is halted. But if they stop making those payments and the chapter 13 has been dismissed, the bank will just start up where it left off. So that's really, really, really important to understand, okay? Number 7, any other liens or judgments you are aware of. Now, again, this guy that I talked to last week was not aware of any. I don't know how, because if you're not making any of your bills or credit cards or whatever, they do have the right to put it on the title of your property. So, number 7 could go either way. They may or may not know. I really use this one to say, hey, are you behind with your IRS taxes? Like, sometimes people are self-employed. If they believe there is an IRS tax lien, and they should know this because the IRS sends letters constantly, then that's something you're going to have to deal with. So if there is an IRS lien on the title of the property or a state tax lien, that is okay. Okay. Those don't scare us. You can handle all of that after the short sale has been approved. Okay. But it's still a good idea. Again, the only way to truly know is to order title. So if you're doing some search and you're like the 2 people that called last week, one of them looks clean. The other one, not so much. And so before we start this process, I have a relationship with my attorney. If you're a title company state, hopefully you have a relationship with that title company that they can go in and pull that. So just be aware of that. Number 8, do you have an HOA? This question and the bankruptcy question are probably just super complicated, okay? I think as you go through these types of transactions, you'll get more and more used to these situations. So, do you have an HOA? If they say no, you do a little happy dance, because dealing with the HOA is worse than the mortgage company, okay? If they say yes, okay, then you're going to want to ask, is it current? Okay. If they say yes, that is another happy dance. If they say no, then we need to figure out how much is behind. Okay, that's so important. They may not know that. You're going to have to contact the HOA and figure out a balance. Okay. The other important question to ask is it yearly or monthly? If it's yearly, it's probably not that much. Maybe they just didn't make this past year. Okay, no big deal. If it's monthly, then yeah, it could be behind many months or years. So in that situation, the bank is only going to pay for a certain amount of those HOAs. They're not going to pay for all of it. So the top reason why you should ask this is if you get the listing, you're going to have to put in the remarks, hey, we're going to ask the bank to pay the back owed HOA, but whatever they don't pay, it's going to be the responsibility of the buyer. And so you do want to get that in writing and stuff. Okay. The bank isn't going to, I had one case, and it closed on December 31st. I can't remember the year. It was a few years ago. It was a horrible hoarder situation. The seller had like 200 cats living in her townhouse. Not kidding you. And she owed $10,000 in HOAs, and PHH actually paid the whole thing. So I've never had that happen before. Maybe you'll get lucky. You still want to ask the bank to pay it all, but more than likely they're not going to. Okay. Number 9, can you tell me your story? What happened? What led to this situation? And that's when you just want to not say anything, but make sure your ears are open so you're understanding their situation. The more you know, the more they tell you, the better it is for the whole process. Okay. So we want to understand, take notes. I take notes before I meet with them. I take notes on the actual file folder, and I do have like listing sheet information, all that at the actual listing. So it's just really important to understand, why they fell behind, okay, and their whole story. Number 10, what is your goal? So ultimately we want to know, like, are you trying to keep the house? Are you trying to sell the house? If they're trying to sell, then let's move forward immediately with getting the property listed. If they are in denial, a lot of times they're going to say, oh, I want to keep the house. Well, a lot of times, unfortunately, that they're not able to keep it. But you want them to go through that due diligence as long as they're not at the very end of the process. If they're at the very end of the process, it's going to be really tough. But the bank is not going to allow for someone to do a loan mod and a short sale at the same time. So they have to pick. So we just want to understand what their goal is. If they're like, hey, I just stopped making my payments a couple months ago. I really want to try a loan mod. Okay. And I have a couple of people that I was keeping in touch with over the summer that were able to get a loan mod. Unfortunately, that loan mod, because interest rates have gone up, the loan mod's like $400 or $500 more monthly payment than it was previously. So they know that they'll be able to make that payment for a little bit, but a little bit is the key word. Eventually, they're going to come back to me, and I'm keeping in touch with them every single month. I either call or I text or I send a card. And then eventually they're going to have to come in short sale. So yeah, those are the 10 important questions. As you go through the flow of this, eventually you'll come up with probably other questions, maybe specific to your area. But these are really important, I would say, to understand prior to going there, okay? You don't want to waste anyone's time. You want to get all of this information up front. And I always have a game plan in place prior to going to that listing. Because when I go, I want to make sure I can get photos. I want to make sure all the paperwork signed so that way I can leave that and get everything going within 24 hours of leaving their property. All right, so that's it for the questions or important questions you should ask. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and answer questions now. So if you have any questions, please post them in the comment section if you're live in our group, or in here. Okay. So Tamika says, hi everyone, a little motivation. I just hung up with a potential client looking to buy who works for Wells Fargo in the foreclosure department. And they mentioned that 2024, they will be going full force with foreclosures that have been delayed due to COVID. So Tamika, that is right. Exactly. And so it's end of the year, and I always try to have meetings with all of my attorneys. Some of them are wanting to wait till January, but they have ins with the foreclosure attorneys with the banks, and they have said they are just waiting for these banks, Wells Fargo, all the other servicers, to say, hey, we are ready to go. There's really not much else that they can do. So I believe that, Tamika, 100%. So thank you for sharing. It sucks. Like, I feel so bad for these homeowners, but it's people like us who truly care and want to make a difference. We were on one of our coaching. So in the coaching program, we have 6 live trainings a week. And one of the ladies said, hey, I was able to help this guy. He wanted to commit suicide because of his situation. I held his hand, I helped him through the process, and now he's flourishing. And he's a teacher. Like, we want to just be there for these people and let them know that bad things happen to good people, right? All right, I have some private messages too. So you mentioned pulling the title. Do you have a site where you can pull a soft title yourself, or do you have a title company that pulls them for you for a fee? Okay, so here in Illinois, we use attorneys. And so I do have a relationship with my attorneys. I don't know if they get charged. I don't think so. As far as I know, I think they have a relationship with the title company. It does not happen that often. maybe a handful of times a year where I ask to pull title up front. And the only reason why I do that is if you're searching on the Recorder of Deeds site, so like I'm in Kane County, whatever county you're in, it's public record. So search your Recorder of Deeds. You can see what has been recorded. But really the ultimate way to find out is title. And so I do try to pull that up front if I think something is a little off and we're going to have to do a lot of stuff up front. Okay. It does take a few days to get back. And so in this particular case, I know that the guy's auction in February is getting postponed. And so we do have some time. They may not have any time on their side. If they don't have time on their side, then I would say just get it listed and you'll have to deal with it down the road. Every situation, and we could sit here all day going through different scenarios. It's absolutely crazy. Every situation is going to be different. So you just kind of, that's why it's so great to have a community around you. Okay. Seems like it could get expensive if you pull title for every, I do not pull it for every property up front. We technically do not pull title until we have an offer. We have templates for all of that. That's when we typically pull title. Now, if something looks a little off, then I will pull it up front to make sure that I know what I'm dealing with. IRS tax liens, 2 mortgages, whatever. Okay. So Doug's saying in California, I am not charged for the title company to pull a title report. That's great. All right. Any other questions? Hopefully this was really great information for you guys. So we are nearing the end of 2023. And so I really took a lot of time last week to figure out, okay, what am I going to do for my last live stream? And so let's see here. What's today? Let me grab my calendar. We have, I cannot believe tomorrow is December 1. So we have 3 more live streams for the rest of this year. Okay. So we have December 7th and December 14th. Those have already been planned out and ready to go. I'm trying to provide you as much information for end of year as possible because like Tamika said, 2024 is 31 days away. Okay. We want you to all be prepared, but those are going to be at the same time, 11 a.m. Central. However, the last live stream for this year is going to be on December 21st. That is my kids' last day of school. And so I do like to participate in their stuff. So I'm going to do a big one that day. And so you actually are going to have to register. We're not going to go live inside of the group. And so it's learn to build a 6-figure niche in distress sales. And we say distress sales because there's 3 different scenarios. I'm seeing a lot more short sales in my area. In fact, I'm closing a short sale today, another one next week, and then I have one final one for the year. All of them short sales. So it's either going to be a short sale or it's going to have that equity sale. Still complicated, a lot of due diligence up front. Or again, it's going to be, okay, the first mortgage can be paid in full. The second is going to be short. Very complicated. So I'm going to post the link. If you're interested in signing up, it will be about an hour class. Again, it's going to be our last live stream. We're going to just blow it out of the park. It is not going to be live inside of our group. And you will have to be registered. Okay. So I will continue to post this in the group in the next couple of weeks. But for now, if that interests you and you want to really dive deeper and learn how you can not only make a difference in the lives of these families, but also make a 6-figure income, which could really change your life as well. So sign up there. Again, I'll post about it. We'll have some really fun stuff at the end, but it's going to be about an hour. Just so you know, it's going to be a different time. It's going to be at 1 p.m. Central because I want to take that morning with my children at their school and I want to make sure we have enough time. It will be about an hour. And so you can register there. I will talk more about it next week and the following week, but I'm super excited for what we've come up with for end of year. Are there any other questions on today's live stream, which is 10 important questions you should ask your sellers up front? Anything else? Doug, I just Joyce, it's going to be our very last live stream, which is Thursday, December 21st. So if you click the link above, it will allow you to sign up through my Calendly. It will send you an email, it will send you reminders. It is going to be at 1 p.m. Central on December 21st. Yeah, it is Central, correct. But when you sign up through Calendly, it should convert to your time zone. So just, like I said, that's going to be our last live stream. My family and I travel during the holidays, so we will not be back in session until January 11th. So I'm telling everyone now so you can plan that hour. So yeah, the calendar works. Yep. So you're very welcome, Sal. Mine didn't this time, so I was late. So typically our weekly live streams, I do a post the day before, and I will private message you the Zoom link. You also will get email reminders. So if you're not getting the emails, then maybe send me a private message. You can send me an email, info@blueprintshortsales.com, and I can figure out why you're not getting them. They could be going to spam, so check there. But our weekly live streams are either via Zoom or they go live inside of our group. I do tend to give the replays out a day or two later, depending on schedules and what's going on. But I wanted to just in advance tell everyone about Learn to Build a Six-Figure Niche in Distress Sales. So again, that's going to be December 21st at 1 p.m. Central. So that would be 2 p.m. Eastern. If you are like Minnesota area, that's going to be 12 p.m. and so on. All right. If there's no other questions, yeah, thank you very much. Okay, so you know how to find me. Feel free to email anytime, post in the group with any questions you may have, or private message me on Facebook. Happy to answer any questions. Otherwise, I will see everyone next Thursday. And I'm very, very, very excited about December 21st. So thanks and have a blessed day.